my name is Marley and welcome to my booktube channel, or welcome back. Today I am filming my January wrap up as always, so talking about all the books that I read in the month of January. It was a pretty good reading month to start out the new year, so I'm excited to talk to you about these books, these 9 books that I read. And I thought for starters we could go over a few of my stats from the month. So as I said, I read 9 books this month, which equaled out to around 3,353 pages. I read 7 physical books and then 2 ebooks, which was pretty good considering one of my biggest goals is to read more physical books from my TBR cart back there. As for audience, there is a bit of a mix. We have 3 adult books, 1 middle grade, and then 5 YA books. I mostly read fantasy books at 44%. Then we had a couple thrillers for 22% and a few contemporaries, 22%, and then 11% mystery. As for ratings, I actually had 3 5-star reads this month, which is really great. As you'll see, one of the reasons for that is I did a 5-star prediction reading blog. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. I had 4 4-star reads, 1 3.5 star, 1 3-star. So pretty good. Then I have a couple new stats that I want to track. These are things I've seen other people track and I just kind of want to do the same. So as for author gender, I read from 8 female authors this month and 1 male. I'm kind of sad. I wanted it kind of to be completely female, and I think this is something that I'll see throughout the whole year, that I probably will read more female authors, but I'm still interested at the end of the year to see like how it turns out being. For author status, so whether they were a new to me author or whether I've read from them before, it was pretty even. I had 5 authors that I've already read from before and then 4 new authors. And then I want to look at the year books were published. So this is going to be kind of all over the place, but I'll pop up a little graph here. I had 1 2023 release, 2 21 releases, 1 2019, 2 from 2018, 1 from 2017, and 1 from 2014, and 1 from 1997. So pretty spaced out for years, I have to say. All right, now let's hop into the actual book reviews, and I always talk about them in the order of my least favorite to my favorite, so that's what we're gonna do again. All right, so my least favorite book of the month was The Lying Game by Ruth Ware, and this is the one that I gave 3 stars to. So my history of Ruth Ware is a pretty good one. I think I normally give her books 4 stars. I typically enjoy them. I have a few issues, but yeah, this was definitely the worst one, and it was the last one that I had to read. Now I've completely read her whole backlist, and let me just say this is her worst book. And if you're gonna read from her, don't choose this one. Basically, the premise sounds very interesting, but also like a lot of other thrillers, in that it's about this friend group of women, and back when they were in school, they got up to a lot of mischief together, and they played this lying game where they would lie to people all the time, and it led them into some trouble. And now it's like years later where they're adults and they're kind of dealing with stuff from the past that they may have caused. So it sounds very cool, fun. I feel like maybe this came out during like Pretty Little Liars or something, with it being about lying, and they just really pushed that with the marketing or something, because it was not very accurate to its description. It was not as good as the premise makes it sound, okay? We're following our main character. She's a new mom. She gets texted by her one friend that she needs her. So she immediately races to go to her friend. Her other friends come as well, and we do get introduced to this sort of murder mystery. There seems to have been some sort of murder cover-up, something going on that these girls were involved in. However, it is so slow. It's like, it doesn't even feel like a thriller mystery, which is normally something Ruth Ware is good at. I feel like she normally sets a really creepy tone and a creepy vibe, even if the twist ends up being kind of obvious. But this one didn't even not have that good of a setting or like a build up or anything to the mystery. We really just focus on these women and like their relationships, and our main character dealing with motherhood. If you want to read about that, you know, this woman who's really struggling with letting things go, she's really overprotective of her daughter and stuff like that. Like if you think that could be relatable, maybe you would like this book. But it just focused so much on these elements that were not thrillery, if you know what I mean. And then in terms of the flashbacks to when these girls were in school, and I'm talking like high school age, we get a few flashbacks to have sort of this context of what happened in the past that they have kind of tried to forget, but there were not enough flashbacks. Like I felt like we were just always in present day, and the most interesting stuff was in the flashbacks, and that's when they were playing the lying game, but they barely ever even played it. Like there was such a focus on like, oh, we would, you know, it's called the lying game, that they would like lie to people, and then we barely saw them actually creating these little lies. It was just really a flop. The twist I could definitely see coming. Yeah, just really did not deliver. And so I was very disappointed with this one. But I mean, Ruth Ware is still, like her writing is still easy to get through and everything. But yeah, okay, I feel like I'm all over the place with that first review. Sorry about that. Next up, we have my 3.5 star book, and that is The Storied Life of AJ Fikry, and this is by Gabrielle Zevin. This was my book club book with my friends, and I actually had never heard of this book before. We just picked it because we were going to watch the movie that has also come out for this book, and I didn't realize this is actually the author of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, that very popular book from 2022. And I haven't read that yet, but I would like to read it. Anyways, this is another book by that author. It is very much a book for book lovers. So if you're like me, if you're watching this video, you're probably a book lover. It's about this man who lives in this small town, like on an island, and he runs a bookstore. And it's giving major A Man Called Ove vibes, another comp wreck. If you liked that book, you'll probably like this. But he's kind of this grumpy man. He's not that old, he's like 40, but his wife has recently passed away, so he's grieving and dealing with that. And we see his interactions with this one book salesperson trying to like sell him a new list of books, and they don't have the greatest interaction. I actually don't even know how to describe this because like the pacing was kind of all over. Like it would constantly jump in time, so I don't want to like spoil anything, but I'll just say that like AJ's book gets stolen, which is like a drama. His really not his book, his very like expensive special edition book, so it's kind of like a mystery of like who stole it. And then also, I don't know if this is a major spoiler, no, it was in the movie trailer, which I also watched. This baby just gets left in his bookstore, and he decides to like raise the baby. So if you like grumpy old man with like raising a sweet child trope, you'd probably like this. But really, yeah, it just focuses on these sort of characters' lives. There's some romance, there's obviously father-daughter stuff, there's book lover stuff, there's a lot of cute stuff, and the writing is very like quirky and funny. So I'm wondering, for those who have read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, is it like a similar vibe? Like is she very like kind of funny and like quirky, weird humor and writing? I would like to know that, because that's definitely what this was. There were definitely some funny stuff, but also just like weird. Sometimes I was like, this is just too like weird for me. It did give me chills at the end though, so I liked that. It was really impactful, but I also feel like it was really trying to be, you know what I mean? Like it was a little bit cheesy, a little bit try hard in like trying to make you feel things, but it did mostly work for me. Next up, we get into all of my 4-star books, and first up we have The Angel Maker by Alex North. This was actually an ARC copy that I was gifted by the publisher through NetGalley, so thank you to them. It actually comes out in February, at the end of February, if you want to check it out. But this is the 3rd thriller from Alex North. In the past, I have given his other 2 thrillers 4 stars, so this one is pretty much right on par with his other books. So I very much recommend this one if you have enjoyed his previous 2. He really seems to be having a certain layout or format for all of his books that I've noticed. I find that they all follow serial killers. They're very much like crime thrillers, so they always have a detective point of view that we're following, along with our like everyday sort of normal family that's getting wrapped up in the case. But we're always following this serial killer case from the past, and then it seems like maybe something's going on in the present now that's connected to those past crimes. And it does always also seem like there's some sort of supernatural element going on with the killings. In this one, it seems like the serial killer from the past could see the future. And I'm not even 100% sure how to explain everything in this book, because we're following all these different characters that don't seem to be connected at the beginning, and then you kind of are unraveling how they are all connected, which was definitely an interesting mystery. I didn't think all of it was totally shocking. There were definitely things that I could see coming, but again, at the end, I feel like it was a pretty impactful kind of twisty ending. I liked the themes it explored. He always has like family stuff in his thrillers as well, different family relationships if you like that, but I did have a big issue with this one in that it felt like the detective point of view was redundant. I know a lot of people don't like detective point of views and find them boring, and I normally don't mind them, especially in his previous ones. I don't think I minded the detective point of view that much, maybe because they were female detectives. In this one, the detective is a male, and I really found him irrelevant. I felt like the detectives were figuring stuff out after our other point of view characters, so I'm like, what's the point of this detective? Like, I'm just hearing the same sort of information multiple times from when the detective finds it out or when our main character finds it out. And our main character was a woman, again, and a mother, and her brother had been attacked in the past. Her brother then goes missing in the present. That's the other people we're following. But yeah, this goes to some interesting places. I just really mostly had the issue with the detective point of view, but by the end I was like, ooh, this is good. It ends like with a punch, you know what I mean? So yeah, check it out in February if that sounds interesting to you. Next up, we have All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Herman. This is one of the books I read for that 5-star predictions vlog that I mentioned at the top of the video. So I predicted this would be 5 stars because it is a YA fantasy with a magical competition, and I just felt like I love those kind of books. Unfortunately, it was only a 4-star, but that was still a really good rating, and this is a duology, so looking forward to reading the second book. But this follows a couple different characters in this sort of fantastical world where there is this competition that happens every, I think, 20 years, and it's sort of like the Hunger Games where each of these special families have to make a sacrifice of one of their family members, one of the teenagers, to enter this magical competition to try and win the high magic. Sorry, this had kind of a complicated magic system, and I read it at the beginning of the month, so I'm kind of struggling to remember those details. But yeah, so we're following a few different teenagers. There's a lot of, you know, family generational drama going on. There's some romances between the characters, which I did enjoy one of them quite a bit. Yeah, I just thought this was a really fun book. Unfortunately, it just didn't have that 5-star feeling for me. As I said, the magic system could be a little bit much sometimes. It was pretty unique. Basically, they all have magic, but they don't have high magic, right? That's what they're competing for. But they do have like some sort of basic magic or whatever, and they create these curses that they put into stones. So that's why they wear them on their fingers, on these rings, and then they can use these curses on each other. So during the competition, like, they can, you know, put these little curses on each other, death curses or curses to injure each other, or they have healing ones to heal themselves. So that was kind of cool to see. So yeah, a pretty fun YA fantasy book. Then, a little controversial, but I picked up a book that was not on my initial TBR. Shocking for me, I always stick to my exact TBR, but this month I actually did squeeze a couple extra books in, which was The Angel Maker, which I already talked about. I didn't plan to read that, but then I got given the ARC, so I thought I'd squeeze it in. This one I randomly kind of decided to read because I think me and my boyfriend are gonna read these books together, but I read the first Harry Potter book. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by She Who Must Not Be Named. And I've never read these books, guys. I never read them. I'm such a reader, obviously, but I just never picked them up when I was younger. I always watched the movies like a million times. So it was very interesting for me to finally read this first book. And it's exactly like the movie. Like, I felt like I was watching the movie, or I was reading the movie script, which I liked, but I found a little bit boring just because I had recently watched all these movies just in December. I obviously know the movie so well, so any part that was different from the movie was the most interesting thing to me, such as the character Peeves, who I've always heard people talk about how they were upset he wasn't in the movies. So I like seeing that character, and I'm very interested to see where his character is gonna go in the rest of the books. But yeah, you know, it was really cute, really fun. Of course, you guys all know this series, so not really too much to say for that one. All right, another 4-star read from me was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a YA contemporary story that is actually written in verse. Elizabeth is like a poet, so yeah, I think pretty much all her books are written in like poetry, and I really enjoyed that. I think the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars though is because I find it weird rating books that are so short, and I'm not really used to reading books this short or that are written in verse, so I did give it a 4, but I absolutely loved this book. I really, really did. It's about a main character, Xiomara Batista, and she's basically going through a lot of relatable teenage issues. I couldn't relate to all of them, but there were certain aspects of her life that I could relate to. There's things I think all women or teenagers probably could relate to. Again, maybe not right if you're an adult, not now, but you probably would have related to as a teen. Her family's very, very religious, so she's struggling with that, her relationship with God and religion, with the fact that she is maturing quicker than a lot of girls her age, like physically, and gets a lot of unwanted male attention that is unwanted and makes her feel very uncomfortable in her body. What else? Just stuff with boys, friends, all the typical stuff as well. Then she gets into poetry a little bit to let out her feelings. I will admit I thought it would focus more on her poetry, but that's fine. I still think it was really beautiful, really hard-hitting, and I felt really bad for her. But yeah, really, really good book. Very much look forward to reading more from her. Now we have 2 books that I'm kind of going to talk about together because it is 2 books in the same series. And these are my 5-star reads. So we have Legendary by Stephanie Garber. Whenever I put this on the screen, it's so hard to see this cover because of how dark it is. But this is the 2nd book in the Caraval series. Caraval was one of my favorite books I read last year. So I read this book in that 5-star predictions reading vlog. And I was correct. I did give it 5 stars. It is actually following a different point of view than the first one. So the first one follows Scarlett, and then this one follows Tella, her sister. But basically the whole series is just about these sisters who live in this fantasy world. It's a YA fantasy series, and they get wrapped up in this competition called Caraval, which is a magical competition where there's some sort of prize at the end, and they both are desperate to join because their dad is like abusive and controlling and all this, so they're kind of wanting to escape. And Caraval is run by this mysterious figure named Legend, and it's sort of a mystery of like who this guy is. In this book, that mystery continued, and that was one of the most intriguing things to me about the series, so I did like that. I didn't like Tella's point of view as much as Scarlett. Definitely not. And I didn't love her romances as much as I did for Scarlett and Julian. But this one has more of like a love triangle. A fan favorite character was introduced named Jax, who I had heard a little bit about, so that was exciting. This series definitely took a turn in this book, and I liked it for the most part. I'll just say we did find out who Legend was, and I was a little bit disappointed by that, but overall I just love this world. I like how Stephanie Garber writes so like beautifully and kind of flowery, but at the same time it's not like too much. It's not too boring or anything, which that kind of writing can sometimes get. So yeah, really, really love that. And so then I picked up the 3rd and final book called Finale, and I also gave this one 5 stars. I wasn't sure the whole way if I would, but again, we got to have Scarlett's point of view, so we had both sisters' point of views in this one, so I really liked that because I missed Scarlett. As I said, she's the sister I preferred. I prefer her romance that she has with a character named Julian, so it's just really fun to see those characters again. We really delve into more of this mythology we have going on in the series, which I won't say exactly what it is, but yeah, I just really enjoyed this whole series, just the vibe of it. I need more books that are like this, so if you have any more, leave recs in the comments for me if you have them. But I know Stephanie Garber has another series in the same world, so you will probably see me picking up those books sometime soon, maybe. Yeah, a very fun time. Okay, then we have my final book of the month, my favorite book of the month, another 5-star, and that was The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson, the 3rd book I read for that 5-star reading predictions vlog. This is the 4th book in the Truly Devious series, which follows a young detective named Stevie, and the first 3 books she's focused on solving this one specific murder at her school. In this one, she gets recruited to go to this camp and solve this age-old mystery that happened there, this like really gruesome set of murders that happened there, and she brings her friends along, so it's fun. We also have the typical Truly Devious fashion where we're getting flashbacks to that original case. This was great. I love this series. I love murder mysteries, as we all know, and I like how lighthearted this one can be. Despite Stevie dealing with anxiety and stuff like that, having these relatable issues, Maureen Johnson's writing is just very fun, very funny, and I did not see where this one was going at all. It really took me by surprise, which I liked, and I'm just adoring this series so much. definitely on par with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And I'm excited that Maureen Johnson has started making each of these books focus on a different murder each time, which was one of my issues I had with the first trilogy, that it just kind of dragged out the mystery. So I'm really excited to read the next one that I think is already out. Yeah, just if you like murder mysteries, you gotta read these ones. And that's gonna complete my wrap up for January. A pretty good start to the year, a lot of high ratings and a lot of different genres. So let me know what you thought of my reviews, what you thought of any of these books, if you have any recs for me, and definitely subscribe if you've not already. But I really appreciate you guys watching this video, especially if you watched till the end. Hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of the year, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.